Okay, so we're still in Professor Hellman's office, and he's going to tell me about a template for writing up a research paper and how we incorporate the design into that.
I'll do that. And as we talked about before, this is just a template. You know, it has to be kind of adjusted to the actual conditions for your project, where are you going to send it, and so on. So this is the kind of template that we hand out to our students actually. So we can discuss that later, what you might kind of adjust in this template for these different circumstances. But so when I have this is a bachelor course actually, and I've written this guide to the students. So I'm just going to orally present what that guide includes. And I actually start by telling these students that you have to have a good title.
Yes.
And that might seem very trivial, but I think it's important that you have a title that actually gives the reader an idea about what is this project all about. And it should be very kind of descriptive, I think. I mean, when you're a really famous author, you can have these lovely, titles like Anat Singh, who is a really famous in anthropology. She published this book last year with the title The Mushroom at the End of the World.
Okay.
But everyone reads it anyway because it's Anat Singh. But if you're a writer like me or a student, I think you should have a descriptive title, saying something like, Aging in Sweden, a question about care and security. Because then you have, aging, that's a research field now that is developing. In Sweden or Jamaica, you situate it in a certain specific context. You can care and security are two concepts that you're going to use in your research. So that's a kind of descriptive title that tells the reader something about what this project is about and the important concepts that you're going to use in the project. So that is quite important to have.
Yes, and here at UE actually, for you to get, like in the PhD programs, for you to have the project approved, they actually approve the title as well. So even the University of the West Indies takes that seriously.
No, I think that's really important. That's a good idea.
Not people like a cutesy pie title.
No, because I think they want to be innovative and attract attention and so on.
Well, maybe after you've finished the PhD and you're turning your thesis into a book, you can get away with that. Not before.
And then also you have to sell it to an audience and you have to attract attention, and that's a kind of a different thing.
Actually, and it's nice you say that too, because in the PhD OB we actually have a course called Dissemination Skills. And it's Professor Lips who teaches that course, and he shows us that we present our work to various audiences, the same content to various audiences. And so yes, a title to the general public is a different thing but then a title to a group of students, even in the general public, is a different thing. Title to business community or something like that.
And then you can always work, as I said, with a subtitle that tells something else.
Yes.
Okay, so that's the very beginning of the project design, and then comes the introduction, where you should present, as we talked about before, what are you going to do. This is really important. The first page. Usually a research design is somewhere between 5 to 10 pages, I would say. The PhD designs are a bit more, but the proposals. But anyway, I would say 5 to 10 pages. That should do for a good research design. Should not use more space than that. So the first page is important because there you bring out the problem to the reader. What is your interest? What is your field of research? What is the problem that you're going to work with in this project? What's the issue that you're interested in? And this section, which kind of delineates your problem as well. You kind of delineate, Is it in a specific region? Is it in a specific field of research? Is it a specific political problem or social issue, or is it an empirical problem? So you delineate your problem in this very first section, the introduction. And that kind of ends up in some sort of aim for the actual project. And that aim should be clear, specific, and formulated, I would say, in 1 or 2 sentences. So this is the aim of this project, and it should be a realistic aim. Not like okay, I want to understand the causes for the Second World War or something like that. I mean, that might be interesting. It's an interesting problem, but you can never achieve that in a project if you have like 1 or 2 years to your disposal. So then you could say that, okay, I'm interested in the in wars, but you could like wars or conflicts and so on. But you have to narrow that down to something that you could actually research in this project, and then come up, of course, with the research questions. That I usually say that you should have research questions that help you to achieve that aim.
Of course.
Yeah, but you often see that students, that they write an aim and then they kind of just rephrase that aim in terms of research questions, and that's a very common problem.
There's one thing though. In Jamaica, for instance, the companies are a little reticent about allowing student researchers at any rate into the companies. So if they allow you, the temptation, I imagine, is to ask as many questions as you can, because you have one shot and one project. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you're gonna, a CEO will allow you into his office once, so you ask enough for 2 projects or something like that. Does that confound? Because if I don't have to use all the questions I asked.
No, but I suppose the research questions are different from the questions you're actually asking during the interview.
Yes, true.
So I mean, the research question, this is still a very condensed form, the project design. So you should, I would say, have maximum 4, like 3 or 4 research questions.
True. Yeah.
That states, okay, this is what I'm going to research.
In a way, you're extracting your design out of your data set. Then
let's say that you're interested in work ethics in a specific company. Okay, so your aim is to understand the work ethics in this company. So that's an aim that is quite, conceivable and feasible, and you can do that in. But then the research question will help. How will you achieve that aim? So the research question in that sense would be like, okay, what does work ethics means to the employees? The second research question could be, what does work ethics means to the employers?
Yes.
So then you have 2 research questions that kind of will help you to achieve your aim of understanding what work ethics is in this specific environment. And then in the section on methods, you have to explain, okay, how will you research what this means to employers and employees, right? So, but when you have come so far, so you have the research, you have the aim, you have the research questions. I usually say that after that you should have a section on previous research.
Yes.
So what have other people written about this?
The literature review.
The literature review, exactly. Really, really important. Because then it's actually there where you place yourself in a specific field of research. And that section can also either be merged with, but often moves into a section of theory and analytical concepts. Because when you do your literature review, you also see, okay, what kind of theories have been used before, what kind of concepts has other authors used to research the same kind of questions that I'm interested in. And then you can move into theory and analytical concepts, saying that, okay, some of this I will bring with me, but I will also add other theories or concepts and so on. So you move into a discussion about how you will analyze and theorize your material. And after that comes the method, for me at least. Mm-hmm. But this is a template, as we said in the beginning. You can moderate this and adjust it, of course. Yes. And after this comes the section on method and methodology, where you're actually explaining how you're going about to do all this. Who are the people you're going to interview? Why have you made the selection you have made? What kind of questions are you going to ask them? Are you going to work with other material? Like, let's say in the example of the work ethics organization, are you going to analyze policy documents? Mm-hmm. Are you going to make observations during meetings? So all these different kinds of methods, will you use mixed methods, or should go into the method section where you explain exactly how are you going to do this, how are you going to conduct your research. And after that I prefer to have a section on ethics, because usually when you talk method you also come into the area of ethics.
Yes.
What kind of ethical issues will be addressed or might be of importance to address using these different methods that
no harm to the recipients, the respondents.
And anonymity. Can you guarantee anonymity, for instance? If this is a small company, mm-hmm. can you actually guarantee anonymity to the people taking part in the research? If you are given sensitive information, how will you deal with that? Yes. If you're see different forms of abuse, how will you deal with that? Yes. So especially, in political...
Or they feel beholden to you because you're the researcher, and they feel that there might be some issue they don't participate.
Exactly. And you have to give people the opportunity to withdraw from your research and so on.
Without any sanctions.
Without sanctioning and without any argument, they don't have to describe why they're doing this. So there are a lot of ethical questions that are needed to be discussed, and they are different. These are different questions depending on if you're going to do a psychological experiment or if you're going to do a long-term fieldwork with qualitative data, of course. But that should go into that section. And then this might not be relevant to all research designs, but I usually to my students say that they should also specify the time limits they have and how they have planned to dispose of their time. So how much time do they plan to spend in the field? Mm-hmm. And if they are kind of planning to, let's say that
a work plan.
Yeah. Let's say that they are going to, in the method section, they say, I'm going to do 50 interviews, 2 hours each. Yeah. Okay, great. And then they come home. They have to include, time for transcription. Yes. And do they have that for 50 interviews? That will take weeks for them. so and then
especially if they can't farm that out, because you promised the people that you're not going to show
exactly.
anybody their interview.
So there's a lot of questions that are popping up when you're actually you're doing your work schedule, and you have to put in enough time to actually have time to analyze your material and write it up. And if you're doing this for the first time, my experience is that students that are doing this for the first time, they underestimate the time that they need for analysis and writing up.
Of course.
So that has to go in there. And then also the last part is kind of skills and conditions. Do you have the necessary skills to do this? Like if you're going to do a long-term fieldwork in the Philippines, for example, well, do you know Spanish?
Yeah.
Or if you don't know, do you have resources to have a translator? So, and if you're planning to also use databases or archival material, do you have the competence to actually process that material? So it's a short section of the whole design, but I think it's important to actually think.
But tell me, how do I know that I have the skills? I mean, all right, knowing if it involves a foreign language, that might be easy. But I have taken research methods courses. I've taken statistics courses. Of course, I believe I have the skills to analyze.
So this is about the formal, you know.
Okay.
You have the skills. Then if you're good at it or not, that's a different question. but formally, do you formally have the skills to conduct and do what you're actually saying that you're going to do in this paper? And there is a lot of, I mean, people like to think, you know, big when they start their designs. And then they realize, okay, but if I'm going to spend half a year in another country, well, can I bring my family, or how does that work? So it's also questions about your private situation. Does your situation allow for this?
Yes.
So that's,
I've seen, because we're in a third world country. I have seen what people might do. You in Sweden, me in Jamaica. I send you my data set and send you my questionnaire and send you how myself, you know, are they answering themselves or am I asking the questions, that sort of thing. And you do it for me. And you send me something in Jamaica. And then I do it according to your specifications. And then you publish and say you did a cross study, Sweden and Jamaica. I did a separate study in Jamaica and Sweden, because we've incorporated each other. So that's valid. There's no ethical issue with that.
No, I can't see any ethical issues in that if it's done on equal terms, and if it's open and we describe it properly.
Nobody must think I actually flew to Sweden, you know.
No, but if you're open with it, now we're talking both research design and the actual publication, right?
Well, the ethics of conducting the research.
Exactly, but I mean, if you transcribe in a detailed and correct way how you have conducted the research, I can't see
that anybody would question.
No, because you present your data and how the data was produced, and then of course people can question that and argue about the validity of the data and so on. But as long as you present that this is the way it was done, I don't see that the necessary is an ethical issue in it. Again, I think the project design is quite important, because then you can really run through together with your cooperates in the other country how you will deal with ethical issues and issues about validity and how to actually build up this kind of project. Do you have personal experience of that, or
I've seen it. I saw it in a PhD project that was here. I didn't question it. I thought it was quite clever. But again, as you learn more about ethics, you wonder about these deviations. But no, I didn't have a problem with it. As I said, I thought it was quite clever. Clever of the lady to do that and get a nice cross-cultural study for her PhD. I thought it was good.
One could discuss, of course, if you should be co-authoring both papers.
Well, we do the multi-paper model. It's one of the models that's presented here, and for that you can have co-authors. Of course, you have to be the primary person. You did everything really, but you might have a little help in some area. But it's still your work. It's seen as your work by everybody, and you said what the other person contributed.
Exactly.
So whatever.
But I think it's quite a good idea, actually.
I think so too.
To do that.
One of the things, though, I was asking you earlier. We didn't finish. It was about we are told in our work to present recommendations and that sort of thing. You haven't mentioned that in your template.
Again, this depends a little bit on where you're sending it. Let's say for a PhD application, for getting into a program, it's good with recommendations, because then you can contact these people and see, okay, is this a good person?
And it's also partly into why you're doing it in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. So it depends a little bit. I think that usually when you do, if you have a project design and sending that to a research council, for instance, it's good, and I didn't mention that here, but it's good if you can place yourself in a research environment, saying that, okay, we are doing, let's take me as an example, we'll do this research in School of Global Studies in Gothenburg, and there I have this research environment, I have anthropologists, I have peace and development researchers, and I will also draw on the competence of human ecology and so on, so they can see that, okay, I'm placed in a strong research environment. You can also have, in one project that we applied for, we also had an international advisor who was one of the top researchers in the migration area. So we said that, okay, we will have this project, and we will do the project, but included in this project is this international, reference person who will also be part of our research meetings and be part of the process. So you can strengthen, I think, your application by including or placing yourself in a conducive and a strong research environment.
Okay, all right. And well, for us as well, in our thing, the university wants us to say what the applications are to industry. Well, for more School of Business and for us in the Sociology department, they want to know things like those. So I suppose it depends too on whatever the rules are, because remember you were telling me earlier too that the requirements for the Swedish Council might be different from the requirements from somebody else. So whatever your requirements are, you follow those. So I suppose any grant proposal or something.
No, but that's true, because the Swedish Research Council, for instance, they have their specific template that you have to follow when you're sending the project to them. But I still think that even though that they all have their own templates, if you look into them, they will also try to answer these three questions: what are you going to do, why are you going to do it, and how are you going to do it? But they kind of structure the applications or the templates in a little bit of a different way. But that's actually what they want to know.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
So thank you.
Thank you very much.